Welcome back, the rare and valuable coins today. We're diving deep into the world of silver Washington quarter dollars. But not just any quarters, we're talking about the ones that sold for thousands of dollars at auction. So let's get started first. Up the 1968 Washington silver. Quarter, a coin with a large date and no mint mark, that's in dirty condition and has a unique black color shade. We'll talk about its history, design features, and what it's worth in today's market. Let's get started. The year 1968 marked a significant moment in U.S. history. The country was experiencing major social and political changes, with events like the Civil Rights Movement and the Vietnam War dominating the news. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was busy producing coins for circulation, including the Washington Silver Quarter. The 1968 Washington Quarter was part of a series of quarters that began in 1932 to honor the first U.S. president, George Washington. By 1968, the coin's design had remained largely unchanged for decades. EXC. The 1968 Washington Silver Quarter. A K coin with a large date and no mint mark that's in dirty condition and has a unique black color shade. We'll talk about its history, design features, and what it's worth in today's market. Let's get started. The year 1968 marked a significant moment in U.S. history. The country was experiencing major social and political changes, with events like the Civil Rights Movement and the Vietnam War dominating the news. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was busy producing coins for circulation, including the Washington Silver Quarter. The 1968 Washington Quarter was part of a series of quarters that began in 1932 to honor the first U.S. president, George Washington. By 1968, the coin's design had remained largely unchanged for decades, except for some modifications to the reverse and adjustments to coin production as silver was being phased out of circulation. Now, let's break down the design of the 1968 Washington Quarter. On the obverse, we see a portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington's face is centered on the coin, with the inscription Liberty above and the year 1968 below. You'll also find the phrase, "In God We Trust," to the left of Washington's bust. On the reverse side, the eagle is perched with outstretched wings, holding arrows and an olive branch, symbolizing peace and strength. The words United States of America and quarter dollar are inscribed around the edges, with the E pluribus unum motto above the eagle's wings. An interesting feature of the 1968 Washington Quarter is the large date. In this year, the Mint used a large-sized numeral for the 1968 year, which is something collectors pay attention to, as it can differentiate this coin from earlier or later years in the series. Let's discuss the condition of this particular coin. This 1968 Washington Quarter is in dirty condition, which is a key factor in its current market value. The black color shade you see here is likely the result of environmental factors like exposure to moisture, dirt, or even prolonged storage. Over time, these conditions can lead to discoloration and tarnishing, giving the coin a unique but worn appearance. Coins in dirty condition typically don't fetch high prices compared to those in higher grades like extra fine or uncirculated. However, the black color shading may interest collectors who appreciate coins with a bit of character, or those who specialize in coins that have been affected by natural processes. Now, let's get to the most important part: the value of the 1968 Washington Quarter in today's market. Because this coin is in dirty condition and features the black color shade, its value is a bit lower than a well-maintained coin. In today's market, you can expect to see this quarter valued around $2,000. Coins in mint state or uncirculated condition could fetch between $2,500. But because of the dirt and discoloration on this specific coin, its value is on the lower end of that spectrum. The 1968 Washington Quarter has a relatively large mintage, which keeps its value more accessible for collectors. However, if you find a well-preserved 1968 quarter with no discoloration or wear, it could be worth more. The coin's silver content is also something to keep in mind. This quarter is made of 90% silver, which means it carries some intrinsic value just from its metal content alone. So, why do collectors care about the 1968 Washington quarter, especially in a condition like this? For some, it's the large date that makes this year unique. Others appreciate the coin's history and the fact that it's part of the Washington Quarter series, which has been a staple of U.S. coinage for decades. Next up, the 1990 silver Washington Quarter Dollar with D mint mark in extra fine condition. If you're wondering what this coin is worth in today's market, stick around because we're going to break down all the details for you. Let's start with some background information. The Washington Quarter has been one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history. First issued in 1932 to honor the first president, George Washington. Since then, it's been a staple of U.S. coinage now, while the early quarters were made of silver. The 1990 Washington Quarter is part of the modern clad coinage. Since 1965, U.S. quarters have been produced with a copper-nickel clad composition, meaning the 1990 quarter doesn't contain silver. But even though the 1990 Washington Quarter isn't made of silver, it still has a lot of historical significance and is a part of the Washington Quarter series. It's something many collectors enjoy adding to their collections. Next, let's talk about the mint mark. This particular 1990 Washington Quarter features a D mint mark, which tells us that it was struck at the Denver Mint. Out of the two main minting facilities for quarters, the Denver Mint produced the majority of coins, including those from 1990. The D mint mark is common, but it's still an important part of identifying the origin of your coin. Extra fine condition means the coin is in great shape with minimal wear. You can still see all the sharp details of George Washington's portrait and the eagle on the reverse. The only signs of wear will typically be on the highest points, like the top of Washington's hair or the wings of the eagle. When it comes to coin values, condition plays a crucial role. Coins are graded based on the sharpness of their design, their wear, and the overall appearance. The higher the grade, the higher the value. For example, a coin in mint state, which is almost perfect, would be worth more than one in extra fine condition. But a coin in extra fine condition is still highly desirable and holds its value well, especially for coins that are a few decades old. Since this coin is made from copper-nickel and isn't made of silver, its value is mainly driven by its condition and demand in the collector's market. Right now, a 1990 Washington Quarter in extra fine condition typically ranges between $1 and $2.50. In today's market, it's not a rare or particularly valuable coin in terms of face value, but its condition makes it worth a little more than just 25 cents. Of course, market conditions and demand can influence the value. If a collector is specifically looking for quarters from the late 1980s and early 1990s in pristine condition, they might pay a bit more for a high-quality coin like this. One option is to visit a local coin shop, where they can offer you a fair price based on the condition of your coin. Keep in mind that dealers typically offer less than the retail value to account for their profit margin. Another option is to sell your coin online through platforms like eBay or other online marketplaces. If you want to get top dollar for your coin, listing it as part of a set or highlighting its extra fine condition can help attract the right buyers. Next up, the 1983 Washington Quarter Dollar featuring the P mint mark. This coin might not seem extraordinary at first glance, especially in dirty condition, but believe it or not, it holds significant value in today's auction market. Let's explore what makes this coin so intriguing. The Washington Quarter was first issued in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design features a portrait of Washington on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. Over the years, several varieties have been released, and while some are more common than others, certain years and mint marks can be quite valuable. In 1983, The U.S. Mint produced the Washington Quarter at two locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The Denver Mint, marked with P, produced a significant number of these quarters. But what makes the 1983P quarter particularly interesting is its value even in less than perfect condition now. You might be wondering, how does a coin in dirty condition maintain its value in the world of numismatics? Coin condition graded on a scale from poor to mint state A. Dirty coin might lower its aesthetic appeal, but it doesn't necessarily kill its market value, especially if it's rare or sought after. A 1983P quarter can still be valued quite high, depending on factors like scarcity and collector demand. So, what is the current market value of a 1983 Washington quarter with P mint mark in dirty condition as of today? These coins typically sell in the range of $38,000 at auction, depending on their specific condition and the interest from collectors. However, there have been instances where particularly appealing pieces, even if dirty, have fetched higher prices upwards of $55,000 or more due to their rarity or unique characteristics. The value of collectible coins is influenced by several factors: rarity, demand, and condition. For the 1983P quarter, while it's not extremely rare, its availability in certain conditions can make a difference. As more collectors enter the hobby and seek out specific years or mint marks, the demand for coins like the 1983P quarter continues to rise, pushing prices higher. A quick note for all you collectors out there: cleaning your coins can significantly reduce their value. While it might be tempting to scrub off dirt or tarnish, remember that cleaning can remove the natural patina and details that collectors appreciate. If you find a dirty 1983P quarter, it's usually best to leave it as is. Next up, the 1967 Washington Quarter Dollar with no mint mark. If you're wondering what it's worth today in today's market, stay tuned as we break it down. Before we talk about value, let's rewind a bit and look at the 1967 Washington Quarter and its historical context. By 1967, the Washington Quarter had been in circulation for over 30 years. Introduced in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday, the coin had a long history of being produced in silver, but starting in 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition for most circulation coins due to rising silver prices. The 1967 quarter, which you're looking at, is made of 75% copper and 25% nickel, and was produced primarily for general circulation. In 1967, the U.S. was dealing with a time of social and political upheaval, with the civil rights movement gaining momentum, the Vietnam War intensifying, and the country experiencing a cultural shift. But what does all that have to do with a quarter? Well, the 1967 Washington Quarter reflects the mid-60s period when the U.S. Mint was focused on transitioning the nation's coinage away from silver and adjusting to the economic environment. One thing to note here: this quarter, like other coins minted after 1964, does not have the silver content that earlier Washington quarters had. But the design is still a staple of American coinage and remains largely unchanged even today. Now, let's talk about the mintage numbers and the composition of this coin. In 1967, the U.S. Mint produced over 1 billion Washington quarters, making the 1967 quarter fairly common in circulation. However, this particular quarter is from the Philadelphia Mint, which did not include a mint mark on coins produced there at the time. Therefore, this coin will show no mint mark, unlike those from the Denver Mint or San Francisco Mint, which would have had a D or S mint mark respectively, as I mentioned earlier. This coin is made from 75% copper and 25% nickel, so it has a bit of a metallic sheen to it and doesn't have the same weight or value as its earlier silver counterparts. It weighs about 5.67 grams and has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters in the coin grading scale. Fine condition refers to a coin that shows noticeable wear but still retains much of the design detail. For a quarter, this would mean that the bust of George Washington and the eagle on the reverse are still relatively defined, though there might be some surface scratches, wear on the high points, and slight fading of the lettering. It's definitely not in pristine condition, but it's far from being heavily worn or damaged due to the relatively high mintage and the fact that this coin isn't considered rare. A 1967 Washington quarter in fine condition typically has a market value of about $100. This is assuming there's no unique feature or rare error associated with the coin now. If you happen to have a 1967 Washington quarter that's in better condition, say in very fine or uncirculated condition, the value can go up significantly, possibly reaching $150 or more. But because this coin is in fine condition, it won't fetch a premium unless it has something special, like an error or a very low population for that year even. Though the 1967 Washington quarter may not be worth a fortune in fine condition, it's still a coin of interest for collectors. It's a part of a series that has been consistently produced for decades, and many collectors enjoy collecting Washington quarters from various years to complete their sets. For example, if you're working on assembling a set of quarters from the 1960s, this coin would be a great addition. Additionally, if you can find one with an interesting variety, error, or unique feature, it could add some value. Sometimes, coin collectors and investors look for key dates, mint marks, and condition levels to drive up the price. Next up, the 1991 Washington quarter dollar specifically. The large date variety with D-mint mark, made of silver and in good condition. We'll explore its history, features, and, most importantly, its value in today's auction market. So, let's get right into it. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American coinage since 1932, originally struck to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday. Over the decades, various changes have been made, but the quarter remains one of the most popular coins in the U.S. today. We focus on a special variety, the 1991 large date Washington quarter with D-mint mark now. Before we dive into the specifics, it's important to clarify that quarters minted after 1964 are generally made of a copper-nickel clad composition, not silver. However, many collectors acquire special silver-proof quarters or business strikes from specific sets or collections. The 1991 Washington quarter in silver is often found in commemorative or special mint sets, making them more collectible than everyday. Change the large date refers to a subtle variation in the font size of the year on the coin. In 1991, some quarters were struck with a slightly larger date compared to the small date variety. This difference is minute but significant to collectors. The D-mint mark indicates it was minted at the Denver Mint. One of the United States Mint's primary facilities. Collectors often search for these varieties because the small differences can sometimes affect the coin's rarity and value. The Denver Mint produced millions of quarters in 1991, but the large date variety is a fascinating subset that appeals to specialists. In the world of coin collecting, the condition or grade of a coin hugely impacts its value. Good condition generally means the coin has moderate wear, but all major details are still visible. For the 1991 Washington quarter, this would mean the portrait of George Washington and the date are clear, but there might be some wear on the high points of the coin, while a mint state or uncirculated coin might fetch higher prices. Many collectors still value coins in good condition, especially if they're looking to complete a set without breaking the bank. One of the most important aspects of this quarter is its silver content. Regular quarters after 1964 are mostly copper-nickel clad, but special silver quarters contain 90% silver. This means they carry intrinsic value based on silver prices alone, which fluctuates daily in the commodity markets. In the current auction Market. These coins typically sell for around $1,000 to $1,500 in good circulated condition, depending on the exact condition and the presence of silver. If the coin is a genuine 90% silver strike from a special mint set or proof set, the price can be closer to the silver melt value plus a premium. Sometimes around $2,000 to $2,500. The 1991 large date Washington quarter with D mint mark in good condition is a neat collectible with modest value that reflects both its silver content and its place in the rich history of American coinage. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced collector, it's a great coin to have in your collection. Next up, the 1980 Washington quarter dollar, featuring the large date variety with P mint mark, and guess what? We're looking at this coin in uncirculated condition. We'll explore what makes this coin unique, why the large date matters, and of course, its value in today's auction market. So if you're curious about rare quarters or want to know what this coin could be worth, keep watching. The Washington quarter was first minted in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday. Fast forward to 1980, and the quarter remains one of the most recognized coins in American currency. Although quarters from this era are often overlooked by casual collectors, there are subtle variations like the large date that make certain coins stand out. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of quarters, but not all dates were created equal. The large date variety features a slightly larger and more pronounced date compared to the small date version, making it a sought-after find. For collectors, the large date refers to a specific style of the date numerals on the coin. In 1980, two distinct date styles were minted, large date and small date. The large date's numbers are visibly bigger and more spread out. This subtle difference is key for collectors aiming to complete specialized sets. The P mint mark indicates the coin was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, the original and oldest mint in the United States. Philadelphia didn't always use the P mint mark on quarters, but by 1980, it was standard. For collectors, knowing the mint mark helps trace the coin's origin and sometimes affects its rarity and value, especially when combined with specific varieties like the large date. Uncirculated condition means the coin has never been used in everyday transactions and shows no signs of wear. These coins retain their original mint luster, sharp details, and are free from scratches or marks that come from handling. For a 1980 quarter, uncirculated condition is somewhat rare, since most coins from this year have been in circulation for decades. Uncirculated coins are often sold as part of mint sets or preserved by collectors immediately after minting. One important thing to note, the standard 1980 Washington quarter is not made of silver. By 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition for quarters. However, special 1980 silver quarters exist in commemorative or proof sets, minted in 90% silver, for a regular clad 1980 large date Washington quarter with P mint mark in uncirculated condition. Prices generally range between $2 to $5. Since these coins are common but still desirable in mint state. However, if your coin is the silver-proof version or a special silver strike from a mint set, prices can jump significantly, often between $150 to $400 or more, depending on condition and collector demand. Keep in mind that auction prices fluctuate with market demand and the silver spot price if it's a silver coin. Checking recent sales on platforms like eBay or Heritage Auctions can give you a real-time idea of its current value. In conclusion, the 1980 large date Washington quarter with P mint mark in uncirculated condition is a nice collectible piece. While the regular clad version has modest value, the silver-proof variants can be quite rewarding for collectors. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more coin collecting tips and insights, and share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. Do you own this coin? Let us know. Thanks for watching and happy collecting.